Alright, so let's kick things off by talking about why spring is hands down the best time to grow peas. If you've been wondering, why should I plant peas now? You're in the right place because peas absolutely love the cool temperatures that spring brings. They thrive in mild weather, and getting them in the ground early in the season can give you a head start on your garden. Peas are a cool weather crop, meaning they prefer temperatures between 50 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit, or around 10 to 21 degrees Celsius. As much as we love those warm summer days, peas aren't fans of extreme heat. In fact, if it gets too hot, peas can stop producing, or worse, they might just wither away. This is why spring is the perfect time. Those early spring days still have that chill in the air that peas absolutely adore. The ground is warming up, but it's not too hot for your peas to get stressed out. If you plant your peas early in spring, you'll give them the chance to establish strong roots before the heat of summer kicks in. The ideal planting time is usually about 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost date, depending on your region. For example, if your last frost is in mid-April, try planting your peas around late March. This early start gives peas enough time to mature and be ready for harvest before the summer heat makes an appearance. Another benefit of planting peas in spring is that they're one of the first crops you can grow in your garden. After months of waiting through the winter, it's incredibly satisfying to watch those first pea shoots break through the soil. Plus, because peas have a relatively short growing cycle, you can start harvesting fresh peas much earlier than other vegetables. That's right, peas are one of the first spring crops you can enjoy. Imagine biting into a fresh, sweet pea pod straight from your garden while the world around you is just starting to bloom. Spring is also great for peas because of soil moisture. As the snow melts and the rain showers begin, the soil stays nice and moist, which is exactly what peas need to get started. Peas need consistent moisture during their growing season, especially in the early stages when they're germinating and growing their first roots. This moisture-rich environment in spring means you won't have to worry too much about watering your plants as often as you would in the heat of summer. This makes spring planting a lot easier for beginners and experienced gardeners alike. So, in a nutshell, spring is the perfect time for peas because cool temperatures peas thrive when the weather is mild, between 50 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit, which makes spring ideal. Early planting peas early in the season lets them get a head start before the hot summer weather sets in. First harvest of the season, peas are one of the first crops you can harvest, bringing a sense of accomplishment and fresh produce to your kitchen early in the season. Soil moisture, spring showers, and cooler temperatures help keep the soil moist, which peas need for optimal growth. So if you've been waiting to get your garden started, spring is absolutely the time to plant peas. You'll be rewarded with fresh, delicious pods, and trust me, there's nothing more satisfying than harvesting peas from your own garden when the season is just beginning. Now let's move on to choosing the right variety of peas for your garden. Quick transition with a pop sound effect. Now that we know why spring is the perfect time to grow peas, let's talk about choosing the right variety of peas for your garden. Peas come in a few different types, each with its own unique features, and the type you pick will depend on what you're looking for in terms of taste, ease of harvest, and garden space. So let's break it down. First up, we've got shelling peas, also known as garden peas or English peas. These are the classic peas that you have to shell out of their pods. They're perfect if you love the experience of fresh peas that you can pop out of their pods and cook up for a delicious dish. The peas inside are usually sweet and plump, and they're great for cooking in soups, stews, or even eating on their own after a light sauté. Shelling peas are a bit more labor-intensive when it comes to harvest since you need to remove the peas from their pods, but they're totally worth it when you taste that sweet, fresh flavor. These peas are best for gardeners who have a bit more time to dedicate to shelling and enjoy using fresh peas in cooking. Next up, we have snap peas. These are a fun and easy variety of peas because you can eat the whole pod, no need to shell them. Snap peas are crunchy and sweet, making them perfect for snacking or adding to salads and stir-fries. You don't have to wait for the peas to fully mature before harvesting. As soon as the pods start to form and feel firm to the touch, you can snap them right off the vine. They're super easy to pick and enjoy, and because you can eat the entire pod, it makes harvesting and prep a breeze. Snap peas are ideal for anyone who wants a fast-growing, low-maintenance crop that you can munch on straight from the garden. Then there are snow peas, which are similar to snap peas in that you eat the entire pod. However, snow peas have a flatter pod, and the peas inside are much smaller. These peas are delicate and tender, and their mild, sweet flavor makes them perfect for stir-fries, soups, and even just steaming with a little bit of butter. Snow peas are also fantastic for people who like to grow veggies with a unique look. Their flat pods stand out in a garden, and their subtle flavor makes them versatile in the kitchen. If you're into Asian-inspired cuisine, snow peas are a must-have for your garden. Now you may be wondering, what if I don't have a lot of space? Well, don't worry. There are pea varieties for every garden, no matter the size. Dwarf or bush peas are a great choice for smaller gardens or containers. These peas don't require as much space to spread out, and they tend to grow more compactly than their vining counterparts. Dwarf peas will produce a solid harvest in a smaller area, making them perfect for city dwellers or those with limited gardening space. Even if you're just using a small raised bed or planting in containers, dwarf peas can still be a game changer. If you have a larger garden and the space to accommodate it, vining peas are another excellent option. These peas grow tall and need some support, like a trellis or a simple string system, to help them climb. Vining peas usually produce a larger yield, and because they're vertical, they won't take up a lot of space on the ground. They're perfect if you're looking to maximize your pea harvest in a smaller area, or want a more dramatic visual display with the vines climbing up a trellis. When choosing a pea variety, it's important to consider the growing conditions of your garden. Some varieties are better suited for cooler climates, while others can handle a bit more warmth. If you live in an area with an especially hot summer, look for varieties labeled as heat-tolerant, or opt for varieties that have a quicker growing cycle so you can harvest before the heat sets in. Lastly, consider your taste preferences and how you plan to use your peas. Are you all about snacking on fresh peas straight from the garden? Go with snap peas. Do you love creating soups or dishes where you can shell peas? Shelling peas are your best bet. Snow peas will work perfectly if you're into fresh, crispy veggies and stir-fries. So whether you're growing peas for fresh snacking, cooking, or just to add a touch of beauty to your garden, picking the right variety is key. With so many options available, you're sure to find the perfect peas to fit your needs and your garden size. Now that we've got your pea variety picked out, let's move on to preparing your soil and planting tips. Quick transition with a fun swoosh sound. Now that you've chosen your pea variety, it's time to get down to the nitty-gritty of preparing your garden for planting. Proper soil preparation is key to growing healthy, productive peas. But don't worry, it's actually simpler than it sounds. Let's walk through the essential steps to make sure your peas get the best start possible. Quick transition with a fun transition sound effect. First things first, peas love well-draining soil. Peas don't like to have wet feet, meaning they don't thrive in soggy, waterlogged soil. To ensure good drainage, make sure your planting area is free from compacted soil. You can check this by grabbing a handful of soil and squeezing it. If water seeps out right away, it's too wet. If it crumbles, it's too dry. Ideally, you want the soil to hold moisture but drain excess water so the roots don't sit in water. If your soil tends to be clay-heavy or compacted, you can mix in organic material like compost or well-rotted manure to improve its texture and drainage. Next, it's time to loosen the soil. Peas have relatively shallow root systems, so you don't need to dig too deep. Around 6 to 8 inches is perfect, but you do want the soil to be loose and airy so the pea roots can spread out and access nutrients easily. Use a garden fork or a shovel to fluff up the soil. If you're working with raised beds, This is even easier since the soil is already loose. But, if you're planting directly into the ground, you'll want to make sure the soil is not compacted or heavy. Once your soil is loose, you're going to want to add some organic matter. Peas are legumes, which means they naturally fix nitrogen into the soil, but they still need a bit of extra nutrition to thrive. Adding compost, well-rotted manure, or organic fertilizers can give them the extra nutrients they need. Aim for a balanced compost with lots of organic material, which will help improve the soil structure and provide a steady source of nutrients over time. Just remember, don't over-fertilize. Peas do well with a light feed, so don't go crazy with the compost. A light layer will do the trick. Once your soil is prepared, it's time to plant your peas. Planting depth and spacing are crucial for giving your peas room to grow and ensuring they have enough airflow to prevent disease. Plant your peas about 1 to 2 inches deep. This gives them the depth they need to establish their roots without being too deep to sprout. Make sure to plant them about 2 to 3 inches apart in rows. If you're planting peas in a row, leave about 18 to 24 inches between rows to allow enough space for them to spread out and for air circulation. If you're planting dwarf or bush varieties, you can space them a little closer together. However, if you're growing vining peas, you'll need to give them a bit more room, especially if you're using a trellis or a vertical growing system. For vining peas, space them about 3 to 4 inches apart so they have enough room to climb. Soaking your peas before planting is a trick that can really help with germination. Soaking the seeds for a few hours or overnight helps to soften the seed coat and speeds up the germination process. It's not mandatory, but if you're in a hurry to get your peas started, it can give them a nice little head start. After soaking, simply drain the water and plant your seeds as usual. Watering is important right after planting, but not too much. Keep the soil lightly moist to help your peas germinate, but avoid overwatering. Overwatering can cause the seeds to rot before they have a chance to sprout. Once your peas begin to grow, continue to water consistently, but remember, peas like to be moist, not soggy. Finally, if you're planting vining peas, you'll need some kind of support. A trellis, fence, or even some string tied between 2 stakes can work wonders. Peas are natural climbers, so providing vertical support will help them grow upward and save you space in the garden. You can also make a simple structure with twine or bamboo poles to help guide them as they grow. So here's a quick recap of the soil and planting tips for peas. Soil prep. Make sure your soil is loose and well draining. Add compost or organic material to improve texture. Planting depth and spacing. Plant peas 1 to 2 inches deep and space them about 2 to 3 inches apart. For vining peas, space them 3 to 4 inches apart. Soaking peas. Soak your seeds for a few hours or overnight to speed up germination. Watering. Keep the soil consistently moist but not soggy. Peas like it moist, not waterlogged. Support for vining peas. Use a trellis or vertical support to help your peas grow upwards and save space. With these tips in mind, you're well on your way to planting healthy peas that will thrive all spring long. Now that we've covered how to prepare the soil and plant your peas, it's time to move on to the next step, taking care of your peas as they grow. Alright, now that you've planted your peas and they're beginning to sprout, it's time to talk about how to take care of them to ensure a healthy, abundant harvest. This includes everything from watering to providing support, and even a few maintenance tips to keep your plants happy and thriving throughout the growing season. Quick transition with a catchy whoosh sound. Let's start with watering. Peas are fairly low maintenance when it comes to watering, but that doesn't mean you can ignore them. Consistency is key. Peas love moisture, but they don't like to sit in standing water. It's all about striking a balance between keeping the soil moist but not soggy. If the soil dries out too much, your peas might not germinate properly or could stop growing altogether. On the flip side, too much water can lead to root rot or fungal issues. The best way to water your peas is to keep the soil evenly moist, especially during germination and the early stages of growth when they're developing their root systems. Deep watering is the way to go, meaning you should water thoroughly but infrequently. This encourages the roots to grow deeper into the soil, which makes the plants stronger and more resilient. If you're using a watering can or hose, aim for the base of the plants to keep the foliage dry, as wet leaves can attract fungal diseases like powdery mildew. If you're in a particularly dry area or experiencing a heat wave, be sure to water your peas every few days to keep them from drying out. Mulching can also be a huge help when it comes to watering. A layer of mulch around your pea plants helps to retain moisture in the soil, reducing the need for frequent watering. It also keeps weeds down, which is great because peas don't like competition for nutrients and water. You can use organic mulch like straw, grass clippings, or even shredded leaves. Just make sure the mulch is a few inches thick, but not directly touching the base of the plants so the roots can breathe. Next, let's talk about support. This is especially important if you're growing vining peas like snap peas or snow peas. These peas love to climb, and without proper support, they'll sprawl all over the ground, which makes harvesting harder and can expose them to diseases. A trellis or fence is the best solution. If you don't have a trellis, don't worry. You can build a simple one with some bamboo poles and twine, or use strings tied between stakes. The goal is to give the vines something to grab onto as they grow. This vertical growth will also maximize your space, allowing you to grow more peas in a smaller area. As the vines grow taller, gently guide them toward the support structure. Peas have little tendrils that will naturally reach out and grab hold, but helping them along the way will ensure they climb in the right direction. This can also make it easier to spot pests or diseases as you can see the plants clearly. Plus, when it's time to harvest, it's much easier to pick peas off a vertical structure than if they were sprawled across the ground. In addition to watering and support, a few maintenance tips will keep your peas healthy and productive. Pruning. While peas don't need heavy pruning, you can remove any dead or yellowing leaves to improve airflow and reduce the risk of disease. If you notice that your peas are getting too bushy or tangled, you can also pinch back the tips to encourage more side shoots and increase your harvest. Weeding. Peas don't like to compete with weeds for nutrients and water, so make sure to regularly check for any unwanted plants. Weeding is best done by hand to avoid disturbing the delicate pea roots. If you use mulch, it can help to suppress weed growth as well. Fertilizing. Remember, peas are legumes, and they have the unique ability to fix nitrogen in the soil, which means they actually help improve the soil's nutrient content. For this reason, peas don't require a lot of extra fertilizer. In fact, too much nitrogen-rich fertilizer can lead to a lot of leafy growth, but few peas. If you notice your peas aren't growing well or have pale yellow leaves, you can apply a balanced, all-purpose fertilizer with a lower nitrogen content to give them a little boost. Pest control. While peas are generally pest-resistant, you might run into a few common garden pests. Aphids are a typical issue for peas, but you can easily manage them by spraying the plants with a mixture of water and a little dish soap. Just spray the affected areas gently to remove the pests. Slugs and snails also love to munch on pea plants, so hand-picking or setting up beer traps can help keep them at bay. Another natural solution is to attract beneficial insects like ladybugs, which will keep aphid populations in check. Pro tip. If you notice that your peas have yellow leaves or seem to be growing slowly, it could be a sign that they're stressed due to temperature fluctuations, too much water, or a lack of nutrients. Check your watering schedule, and if needed, apply a small amount of organic fertilizer. With the right care, your peas will thrive. Make sure to water consistently, give them proper support, and keep an eye out for pests. In return, you'll be rewarded with a delicious harvest that's totally worth the effort. Now that you've got your watering, support, and maintenance game down, you're almost ready to harvest those sweet peas. Quick transition with a playful ding sound.